The month is August 2017. There's been a terror attack in Barcelona. Ryan Reynolds and Samuel Jackson have teamed up to make Hitman's Bodyguard. Anya shoplifted. And Life is Strange returned with Before the Storm. So guys, this is our new analysis series. We're playing as Chloe Price. I'm just going to kickstart with a basic question for you both. And we'll start with you, Anya. When it was announced that Life is Strange was coming back to Arcadia Bay and we were getting a prequel, as finding out the backstory of Chloe, were you excited? Were you skeptical? What were the emotions you were going through there?
I think I remember being pretty excited for it. Like, I was originally just kind of like, oh, we're not going to have a power, though, because obviously, canonically, Chloe doesn't have one. So it's just like, oh, we're just going to be going through her life, I guess. We already kind of know, like, her backstory and how she got here. So it doesn't really change, like, anything in the original game. But what I was most excited for was the fact that we get more about Rachel and Chloe and Rachel. And then just seeing how, like, Chloe herself fared without Max in that time away.
I mean, to be honest, I don't think the game was already out by the time I played it, so I didn't really have any sort of hype or anticipation for it. But after playing Life is Strange 1, I then found out there was a prequel and that you got to play as Chloe. And I was thinking, you know what, I actually think Chloe, bit of a hot take to start the series off, I think she's a far more interesting character than Max is. So I was actually, you know what, yeah, I want to find out how she came to be the Chloe that we know from season 1. And as well to find this, meet this Rachel Amber character that, again, was sort of in the backdrop of season 1, who meant quite a lot to Chloe and obviously what that whole shindig was about. So yeah, I was pretty keen to jump into it, mate.
Yeah, same here. And yeah, for me, because when the trailer dropped, it had Daughter numbers on, and Daughter's a band I really like. So when I found out one of my favorite games was teaming up with like a band I really like, I don't think I've ever purchased something so quick. I just like instantly pre-ordered the deluxe edition so I could have mixtape mode and all the extra Chloe outfits and stuff. Was it worth it? That's a whole other question. But yeah, no, I was super stoked. And yeah, you know what? There's all those skepticisms, like no power, we're not going to be playing as Max, we're going to be playing as Chloe. But as someone who's a massive Twin Peaks fan, and I can kind of take in that Twin Peaks sort of like essence into this analysis series, Twin Peaks do a very similar thing where they actually had 2 seasons and a movie, and the movie speaks about Laura Palmer, who's the girl who goes missing or washes up on the shore dead. So like they basically wanted that, where they had a film or like a prequel that explores Rachel Amber, and it was really cool. Another little Easter egg as well is that film's called Fire Walk With Me, which is also the name of the band at the Sawmill at the start, so I thought that was pretty cool. But guys, we get into it, and there's a lot to talk about here, but the way we usually do this is we start with the choices, so we kind of do that, and then we backtrack and we talk about different points. One thing I want to start though is when we load up the game, we get this really beautiful pause menu where you have this really epic song in the background, and I just kind of wanted to ask of you guys, like, what do you like the pause menu? Is it one of the greatest pause menus of all time? Because I certainly think it is, and I want to know if you guys share that sentiment.
I really like them, and I know we're jumping ahead here, but I think the fact that actually the pause menus follow the story as well. So obviously at the start, it's just sort of like a nice green forest. You then move forward after the fire happens, it's then a forest on fire. And then after that, in the final episode, you can see it's all burnt. I think it's fantastic that the pause menu, similar to what we were saying in Heavy Rain really, with like the little ripples and things, it sort of marries up with what's happening in the plot of the game. But even on top of that, like the font and stuff, like it's very distinct. It's very sort of handwritten style, like you would expect in like a journal. So yeah, it's certainly got its own identity, and yeah, I really like it personally.
Yeah, I like it too. And I think like the original game follows that same kind of like what's happening in the game, doesn't it? Like the Arcadia Bay by episode 5, you have like the stormy menu in the background. And then like I don't think I expected them to do the same thing before the storm, or at least when I replayed it, I forgot that they did that too. So it's like I loaded up episode 2 and I was like, oh, hello. This is not what it was like the first time, but I like it a lot. And how it has like the central point of like that one tree through the whole time.
Yeah, and it's cool as well that that's a location we will see in the game. So like, it's a location that will become familiar, and then yeah, like Life is Strange 1 did it, and we're getting the same with For the Storm. So it's just really sick to see. I really like the fact that almost like the episodes follow like kind of like Rachel's emotions, I guess, and kind of like, you know, where it actually is geographically and like in time. So yeah, no, I just thought it was a really beautiful menu. Guys, we're just going to go straight into the choices, and then we'll backtrack and cover all the other stuff we need to. Now, the first choice is you attacked or you ran. Now, this is when you're at the sawmill where you first kind of meet Rachel. I just want to ask, do you guys remember what you did, and if so, what was it?
Yeah, so I attacked the guy. So just as a little bit of context, I feel like for me, some of the reasons for my choices in this were basically I wanted to do the opposite as to what I did in my blind playthrough, and sometimes I just wanted to stay true to what I think Chloe's character is. And we all know that sort of Chloe is clearly someone that has her vulnerabilities, but on her outer shell, she is quite spiky, she is quite fierce. So in this particular situation, it felt more fitting for her to knee the guy in the balls than it was to just simply run away from him. So yeah, I straight up attacked him, mate.
I also attacked him. I'm just gonna be going with the choices I did in my recent one because I do not remember for like the first time I played it. It was so long ago at this point. But yeah, I attacked the guy because I knew like there's plenty of ways it could go wrong, like with just like creepy guys in an isolated area up there. But you know what? He deserves a little bit of violence. So we're gonna hit and run.
So yeah, you know what? In my blind playthrough, I think I actually ran. I was just trying to be a diplomat. I'm like, I don't want to cause trouble here, so I think I did. But as always, guys, I did this on the stream with you guys, the fans, and you were very chaotic as always. So we attacked, and we also ended up having a black eye. So yeah, you know, we had to live with that. Not my choice, your guys. I hope you guys are proud of yourselves, but that's what we had. The next choice is you were mean to Joyce or you were kind to Joyce. Now, I'm just going to kickstart. I was kind. Now, you know what? I'm looking at the choice statistic here on PC, and it says only 64% of people were that. Now, I know there was someone in particular in our stream who absolutely hated Joyce. Whenever Joyce came on the screen, they were like vomiting. And, which is interesting, because I've never seen such a take where someone's thrown so much hate at Joyce before. But I want to ask you guys, was anyone here mean to Joyce at all?
Yes.
Go on, Jack. Tell us why. Why.
I must admit, I did play it like a couple of months ago, so I can't remember like word for word for like what the dialogue was. But in that particular moment, and the thing is that me personally, I do have sympathy for Joyce, but I think where Chloe was at in that particular moment, it felt more fitting, and I was curious to see what would happen if she just turned round and like was mean to her. So yeah, I ultimately picked that option, mate. I just wish that I could relay what sort of went down, really. But I imagine it wouldn't have been too drastic or sort of affect the relationship that much.
I was nice to Joyce at this point just because, I don't know, I just can't handle being mean to her. But I did have a friend of mine who just they played for the first time just recently, actually. And then they were mean to Joyce, and I was like, really? And they're like, yeah, I just feel like this is like how Chloe would react at this point. And also like in like the regular timeline, like Life is Strange 1, like it doesn't matter too much anyways, like because Chloe still hates David and everything. But like mine was the opposite logic, where it's just like maybe in the beginning she would try for her mom, and then it just keeps getting worse. But I don't know.
Yeah, and I think the particular person who really wasn't a fan of Joyce, I'm sure they'll clarify more in the comments, but their reason and thought was something along the lines of how Joyce picked David over her own daughter, and pretty much kicked them out, and that is just like an absolute sin, so they just absolutely hated Joyce. So, you know, whether we believe that or not, you know, that's where it is.
You know what, I'll just quickly add as well, I think another couple of reasons why I was mean to Joyce is that previous to that, you know, when you're like upstairs as Chloe and you can like wander around into Joyce's bedroom, you can find like a hidden photo like tucked into Joyce's drawer, which, you know, I do understand because obviously she's in a new relationship and stuff, but I'm just trying to imagine this from like Chloe's perspective. That's gotta hurt. And then the fact you can see like a receipt that she's ultimately going to sell the engagement ring. If you're then taking that energy downstairs, I feel like Chloe would be more mean to her mum in that particular instance?
The third out of 4 choices is about defending Nathan, which is where we get one of the cringy backtalk scenes, which we will get to, and boy will we slay. But yeah, guys, did you defend Nathan from Drew in this game?
Yes, I did defend Nathan from Drew, not because like I'm a big Nathan fan or anything. Like in this game in particular too, it's like they definitely try and like show like not a softer side, but just a little bit more insight onto why he is the way that he is, and like this is a good little like view of like, oh, he was getting a lot of like shit from people as well at this time, like, oh, you're in a play, nerd, you can't also be on the team, your daddy's money buying you this, blah blah blah. But it was also fun to pick a fight with Drew, because as cringy as the backtalks can be, they can also be kind of funny. Like I like the line Chloe has where it's just like, why don't you pick on someone your own size, which I hear is pretty small.
To be honest though, like before I get to you, Jack, I will say that I also defended Nathan because I guess it was the right thing to do at the time. Very interesting how it does flip, and it's almost like Nathan becomes the bad person and we actually end up respecting Drew in the later episodes. But you know what, I'm going to say it, I quite like that they did this angle with Nathan, because I feel like it would have been so easy to have just gone into this game and Nathan's just the same kind of like bully character. And I get he's the year below and he's just coming into the college and there are going to be bigger dogs above him. But I don't know, like, it kind of caught me off guard to see Nathan in this vulnerable state. I don't know if you felt the same, Jack.
100%. And you know what? I'm still, like, going back, playing Before the Storm. I've got, like, a little bit of episode 3 to play. But one thing I can pick up already is that from this series alone, but even, like, reaching back into Season 1, there's going to be, like, so many, like, character analysis videos we could do about grey characters. Because there's so many like moral conundrums and things that are thrown up, and literally Nathan's like the perfect example. So like for me in the choice, I did actually defend him, but I almost regretted it like a few moments after, because I suddenly realised the significance of this character. Like he's ultimately the person that kills Chloe at the start of series 1. So like, I don't know, it was interesting to see him in that vulnerable position, and obviously I do now know that like you do get a bit of like a rapport with Drew, like within like the hospital scene and stuff. So it is a choice I regret, but nonetheless it was good to see him, you know, not be the bully in this particular series.
Nah, very well, lad. We'll get to the final choice, and it's a pretty big one. Did you tell Rachel you're more than just friends, or did you tell Rachel you're just friends? So basically what I'm asking here, do you ship Chloe and Rachel? Because we put out a poll a while back, didn't we, Jack? And like there's people that actually ship like Max and Warren, Chloe and Rachel, then there's people who ship Chloe and Max. So I'm just going to ask you guys, and I'll start with yourself, Anya. Are you a stan for Chloe and Rachel?
Am I a stan? Sure, yeah, I'm a big Amber Pricer. But I will say that I do like both Chloe with Max and Rachel, because like I think I might prefer Amber Price in a way, but I think both Max and Rachel are like exactly what Chloe needs, like in her like whatever point of life she's at right now. So like having Rachel at this point is good for Chloe, but then when Max comes back, that's also good for Chloe. So, but they're just like very different, but they also work for the like time, the period of time that they're at.
Yeah. So as far as the choice goes, at this point I did actually say that they're just friends, because for me it felt too soon. They've literally spent the day together, and I get that they're building up chemistry and stuff, but at this point for them to start admitting feelings to one another, it just felt a bit too soon. But ultimately I do think that in terms of like the ships and stuff, that she far suits with Rachel more than she does Max. For me, Chloe and Max are more best friends. With Rachel, I do see I just see more chemistry there, you know. There's more playfulness. You can see that at that particular time, before she ultimately gets hurt, Chloe is more vulnerable and almost like starstruck in like the presence of Rachel. And I just like I said, I see a lot more back and forth. They're obviously open about their emotions more. And where in this context Max is so detached, like she's not even texting Chloe. Like you can just see that the bonds that these two are making. But ultimately I probably wouldn't put Chloe with anyone, given the fact that Whether this is true or not, I don't know, but whether like Rachel does ultimately like sleep with Frank or cheat or whatever, then yeah, I probably wouldn't have a go with anyone. Like a romantic sense.
And it's a pretty big thing to think about, isn't it? If you do obviously go down the romantic angle, then it kind of means that Rachel cheats. While if you go down a friendship, then suddenly it's almost like okay again. So it almost really puts in a different perspective depending on how you played your first game, which is really interesting. Now, it's weird. The way I see it is, and like, I actually think Chloe's more suited to Rachel rather than Max. Reason being is that like, I feel like Chloe and Max, I think they're just friends, like kids kind of thing. And then obviously when Max goes at a very delicate time in Chloe's life, I feel like Rachel came in at this perfect time where it's new, it's exciting, there's adventures there, and like you've got the school outcast with the school popular girl, and it's weird, and they're kind of like, I don't know, kind of starstruck by it, but I weirdly buy it, you know. And I know there is that whole, you know, argument whether like the romance angle's too fast, but I almost think they cover their tracks with it, you know, in that minor choice where you first meet up with Rachel again when you go back to school, and then, you know, she gets your opinion on the way in on the Tempest, and you can choose whether you believe in love or you think falling in love is stupid. And I think, you know, the theme of like the Shakespeare alongside the Rachel and Chloe romance, I think it actually blends pretty well, and I quite liked it. Yeah, and I don't know, I just don't know if I'd buy Chloe and Max as a romantic ship, but that, like I was telling you about this chat the other day, it's just me personally. If I'm friends with someone from childhood for such a long period, I just can't see them in a romantic light afterwards. That's just the kind of person I am. So I just don't sort of see Chloe and Max as a ship, but I do with Rachel. So I bought it, and then we did it in the stream as well. So yeah, we had a romantic stream, which a lot of people were unhappy about. You will learn in my stream, a lot of people absolutely despised Rachel. But yeah, there we go. Guys, those are the main choices. There's a lot to talk about. There's a lot we can pick out here. But we briefly mentioned it before, and I think one place I kind of want to start with is this new feature we've got called Backtalk. Now, from what I gather, we like you said, we're not getting a power because Chloe can't time travel. We've not introduced Supernatural yet, so we're not getting any cool fancy time stuff like that. Jack, I want to ask you, is that an issue itself? And B, was the Backtalk a naff idea of a replacement? Can you think of something else they should have done? What's your take on that?
I think actually perhaps they shouldn't have done anything at all. It feels like the Backtalk thing, it's a little bit shoehorned. It's almost as if like Deck 9, they've looked at Don't Nod, they've said, oh, Max had like a special thing going on. What are we going to give Chloe? Is almost like that's like a prerequisite to go into a Life is Strange game. Whereas for me, like I think Life is Strange is a lot more than just the going back in time element. I think it's about the characters, the story, and sort of the drama side of things. So yeah, like, you know, there's sort of like, it's sort of corny, isn't it? Like the dialogue that you get from some of these Backtalks, like whether it's the bouncer at the start, whether it's the bit where, you know, you can have one with Drew later on when he's up bullying Nathan. The dialogue itself is very corny, and it sort of doesn't seem to quite fit what I imagine Chloe to say. So I think ultimately I'd have probably parked it and just had dialogue options come up like in every other game.
I think I agree with that. Although I also think like this episode, like episode 1, the writing of the backtalk is just the worst that it is. Like it's not so bad in 2 and 3. As a general like quote unquote power, I think it's okay. Like it wouldn't change anything really if they didn't have it. I don't know what they could do differently that would like still suit Chloe and just be like a normal like thing to do instead of just like rewinding time. But like with this story in particular, because it's a prequel and we're just getting more depth into other characters and everything, I don't care too much that there's no power. If it was like a trend that continued where it's like True Colors didn't have a power and like Life is Strange 2 didn't have one, then like I might be a little miffed, but it's fine for this game in particular.
Yeah, no, I get you. I feel like Before the Storm really tries to kind of like take Arcadia Bay and bring what we love about Life is Strange 1, but since we can't have Max in it because they are going down this prequel angle, they've got to do things that stand on their own 2 feet. So we've got things like we're getting rid of the journal and we're having Chloe's sent letters, which is a whole other thing. You know, you've got like you're replacing photography with graffiti, which is a whole other thing. And then obviously instead of the power, we get this back talk. Now, I kind of agree. I think it is quite naff in certain areas, especially like when you start it, you're literally going up to the Samoan bodyguard and you're telling him it's past his bedtime. And I don't know, like I kind of like my stomach went in nuts from all the cringe. I'm not gonna lie. So it's a whole other argument if you think there should be a power in the game. I quite like that there isn't one. I think this whole game is about nostalgia. But yeah, like I would have done something different that isn't springing to my mind off the top of my head. I'd have to have a good think about what it should be. But I honestly think I could leave the back talk. I don't think it fit. Even from a style point of view, where you have that like music that kicks in that's just really tense, even though like you're about to tell someone to go to bed or that they should grow up, and it's like really like you've got this really tense music with this really childish argument, and it didn't quite knit and go together in my opinion. But that's just me. You know, there might be someone out there that loves it, and if you do, please let us know in the comments.
Also, as well, it's like how quickly the opponent folds. You know, I'm talking about like the bouncer at the start. You know, you sort of mentioned the flowers on the bike, and the guy's sort of suddenly turning and going, "All right, then I'll let you in." And it's sort of like it's not only just the feature, but it's just sort of like the realistic nature of it from the dialogue for like to get your opponent to come to your side. I don't know. I just felt like it was a little bit wanting, I think.
Yeah, and I think Life is Strange 1 dialogue was one of the biggest criticisms they had. And it's like they didn't learn their lesson, did they? They, if anything, they doubled down on it.
Yeah.
On the topic of power, if you buy into the theory that like Rachel has a power, technically we are playing a game that has one, because a lot of people speculated it like she has like some kind of weather or like fire powers, and like in the first game too, like Chloe thinks that Rachel could be like the storm itself, so that would fit into the weather thing. But then that's another like a Sean and Daniel thing where you're not playing with the power, it's just kind of like to the side, and it's not even confirmed with this one, but I think it's fun to think about that Rachel could have one.
Yeah, big time. I have seen that theory before, and obviously the most evident is when, you know, the fire scene, right, when she screams and you get all the wind. So what necessarily a power is, I'm not overly sure, like maybe something with emotions and that, but like it is almost a dark theme to think about that like we never really got to explore it because like she's in the grave, right, by the time that she possibly could find out that she had a power. I don't know. So yeah, no, it's definitely like, you know, a really cool school of thought to think about that one. Right, and another thing that Before the Storm does that we don't really get with Life is Strange 1 is that we kind of explore the theme of grief a lot, because this is post Chloe losing her father and Max leaving, but pre like the first game, and with Max coming back. So we do get these Chloe dream sequences where you'll be back in, you know, your dad's car, and it is really horrific where like, you know, like it will end with like the lorry coming and crashing and killing your father in front of you. But you do get this kind of like dreamy sequence with the country music on, and I just kind of wanted to get your take. Was this a welcome scene, the style of it? Like, did you guys get on with these scenes?
I think to like the first one, I was just like, what's going on? And then it kept like happening like in this car. And then I liked in the next episodes and everything where they just like kept doing it in different settings. Because when I was just in the car, I'm like, are we just going to be here the whole time repeating this? Like, I guess it makes sense because it was like the whole thing, like he was in a car accident and everything. But it was also, I love William, so it was a welcome situation to see him again. Even if it wasn't him, this is still like Chloe's idea of her wholesome, like goofy little fun dad. And it makes me grow a lot more attached to him as well, because even in the first game we get like that one like episode scene with him and everything, and I still like loved him, and you can see for sure where like he is like the heart of Chloe and why it affects her so much. Like I saw some posts like the other day, someone was asking like would she still turn out the same way if it was Joyce instead, and then a lot of people were just saying like no, it was definitely her dad that she was closest to, and we can see that a lot with these as well. And I was playing it chronologically when I was replaying, so I did Farewell first, So that already broke my heart. And then to go through like Before the Storm and have these dream sequences, it's just like we're freshly mourning still, like me and Chloe.
You know what? It's super interesting that you played it again chronologically. Because, like, to be honest, I've always said that you can play any Life is Strange game standalone, but I would say that Before the Storm is probably the one game you can't just play by itself, because I feel you're very much relying on the fact that you've played the first game to understand like things like Nathan, what Chloe's going through. So, like, can I just get a quick hot take there? Like, chronologically, does that work well? Like, did you quite enjoy playing it in that order?
I did, yeah, but I think it helps too that I had played them before. Like, if you're gonna play for the first time, you should definitely do it the way it released, like the first game, then Before the Storm, and then Farewell. But now this time I was like, no, I'm just gonna do it all like in the right timeline. So I'll do Farewell, and then I'll do Before the Storm, then the first game, and then when I get to True Colors, I'll do Wavelengths first, and then True Colors. And I put Life is Strange 2 in between there too, but it's not as like the whole things with Steph. It's just like she has her own thing going on there. But I don't know. And then like through Before the Storm, because like I was playing as Chloe and I saw like all her letters and everything. By the time I started Life is Strange 1, I was starting to beef with Max a little bit, just like how could you do that? But then I remembered that like I love them both and like they each had their reasons for whatever, so
yeah, and that is a theme we will go through as well, about like whether Max is genuinely a bad person, because that's probably one of my favorite things about Before the Storm. You know, it paints Chloe in this different light, and I know so many people that play the first game and go, oh, I really dislike Chloe, she's so spoiled and bratty and rotten. And then I love Before the Storm because it switches perspectives. We see Nathan in a different light, we see David in the same light, we see Chloe in a different light. There's just all these like kind of different perspective shifts, and I think it's a really clever game, and I do think it is very slept on, this game. But yeah, you know what? Playing chronologically, that is something that I actually want to try, and I think I will do at some point. But went on a bit of a tangent there. Jack, any comments with any of that, and any comments to do with the dream sequence, perhaps?
Yeah, the stuff about the dream sequences, like the things about them, like they're touching, but they're also haunting. So like obviously with the fact that we know that she's lost her dad in this crash, so like whenever you see the dad, it's gonna like tug on the heartstrings a bit. Then they're so haunting, like just some of the things that you see, like even in this episode when you like obviously you've got the crash at the end of like the train, when you see like Rachel on fire, like just some of the imagery and stuff, it's really sort of haunting and like heavy hitting. I think it goes like such a long way to just explain Chloe, and this is why I say at the top like why she's like for me like she's a far more interesting protagonist than Max, because you've got this whole thing with her dad, and you can then see the ripple effects of that into her relationship with her mum and also with David. The fact that also as well, like when the pause menu of like her letters and things, you get the sense of abandonment from Max, and as well as like the text messaging, or lack of text messaging I should say, with Max as well. So like I feel like Before the Storm, and you got to give credit where it's due, like I think it really does in a short space of time really like characterize Chloe in like a really strong way. And yeah, like to come back to the dream sequences, yeah, like they are very heavy hitting, and they are sort of nice to break up sort of like some of the other moments in the game when you're changing location and stuff.
So like when we play this game, what's cool about it is that like it will get rid of some of the characters we saw in the original game because they wouldn't have started college yet. But it does also kind of bring in this new wide range of characters that, like, you know, would have been at Blackwell at this time. So, you know, we get things that people like Drew, we get Skip, this new janitor, Rachel, obviously. There's Steph as well we want to talk about. Now, Steph's someone that Anya's going to know way more than me and Jack, because Jack and I yet to play True Colors. So we know, like, Steph in this really sort of, like, kind of tip of the iceberg light at the moment. But I'll start with you, Jack, because you're someone who's kind of probably more in the dark, and then Anya can kind of just dump on, like, all the stuff about that we're missing with Steph here. But all we really get is that she's just this fun, kind of like whimsical character. But we get this really fun, like, Dungeons and Dragons session with, like, this kid Mikey. I just wanted to ask, did you quite enjoy that sequence? And did you kind of take your time with it? Or, yeah, just tell us about your experience with that one.
This is where I've become very unpopular very quickly. I do remember playing this scene with Steph and Mikey in the D&D thing, and for me it was one of the worst sequences in the episode. It was very long. I didn't know what was going on. I didn't feel like I had a lot of agency because it was just very dialogue heavy, and it would like intercut with various sort of things about what was happening in the game. I'm not very familiar with D&D, so apologies. As far as like Steph goes, yeah, like I think honestly it's what you sort of said at the top, mate. Like fun, whimsical, just another girl around campus that I don't know too much about. So it is interesting that you do obviously take the lead with her in True Colours. So it'll be good to get to know her character more. But as far as like that D&D thing goes, in this playthrough, I knew what was coming, so I purposely avoided it.
I want to say before I pass it to you, Anya, I mean, as someone who is in a D&D campaign myself, I did quite enjoy it, and I get like it can drag the game by like another like 20 minutes because it can be quite a long sequence, especially if you do like the 2 side bits before fighting. But I don't know, I just really enjoyed the comedy out of it, of seeing kind of Chloe let loose and just chill out with the so-called nerds, and then like make this character Calamasti or whatever, and like using kind of like charisma and intimidation more like to threaten like these little goblins. So I enjoyed the scene actually, but yeah, like it'll be nice for the people in the comments to kind of like fill in what they thought of it. But Anya, we're gonna give the mic to you. You are quite a big advocate for True Colours, aren't you? But tell us what you thought of the D&D session, and tell us like what can we expect from Steph as we play the next game.
Yeah. The sequence itself, the D&D, the first time I played it, I like didn't care much for like D&D or tabletop or anything like that in general. So it's like I started it and then I was like, I'm gonna back out of this one. Because like there's like a chance where you can just leave at some point. But then when I was replaying it again, I was just like, I'm gonna go through the whole thing because I think Mikey and Steph are really cute. And this is just like, I ended up playing some D&D like last year or something for the first time, and I actually really enjoyed it. So I'm like, you know what, we'll do it. And then also, Chloe this is the same girl who, when she was growing up, would play pirates with Max. So I feel like she would love doing D&D stuff like this. And Steph in general is just a fun, endearing character. And I like that we do get to see her again in the future. And she does keep like the nerdy, like D&D side of her. Like there's like a little Easter egg in Wavelengths, where she'll like have her own little like tabletop session going on, and then in True Colours itself she'll plan one out as well, but I don't like that sequence as much. But yeah, it was nice to see her again because she was just like a standout of the original characters for me. I think even if we don't see her too much, she's just cool, and she gets along with Chloe, and like we'll see like in True Color or Wavelengths as well, that she gets along really well with both Chloe and Rachel. So that's interesting.
Big time. Really interesting to see. I can't wait to like play True Colours actually, which we will be doing on the channel at some point. I know a bunch of people are asking. We will eventually do True Colours. Just we've got to get through this game as well as Life is Strange 2, and then we will eventually get there. But there's another character that we will meet in this game called Elliot, who I guess is Chloe's ex, maybe. Now, like, when I replayed it, I was horrible to the guy because I know what comes. But I just want to kind of get your take on what you thought of this Elliot character and how you reacted to, like, his kind of romantic advances. I'll start with you, Jack.
Basically, Warren 2.0.
Yeah.
It really is. It's almost like they're trying to hit the same beats of like they did in Series 1. There's things in there, like I can't remember if it's this episode, maybe a future episode, but you can see like Elliot like writes poetry and stuff about Chloe. Even in like Chloe's room, you've got the photo of them, like clearly where they've gone to a concert together. But the weird thing is that they've clearly done this stuff together, but when they're in each other's company, it feels very one way. It feels like Elliot is driving it and Chloe's half interested, maybe being too kind, but like it's very easy for her to palm him off, and he's just like, oh, okay. So he's not really a character that I think is going to live long in the memory, because he just sort of feels like a bit of a sidekick when it's convenient to Chloe, really.
No, I get you. Any thoughts on Elliot, Anya?
But
Yeah, bleh.
he's just so icky. I don't know if like I know I was ripping on Warren a lot when we were doing like the Life is Strange 1 videos, but I think like doing it chronologically this time, dealing with Elliot first and then going on to play like the first game, I appreciated Warren a lot more because at least like he wasn't that bad in comparison. Like Elliot was just like constantly trying to do things with Chloe, and she was just like, like at least Max and Warren were friends. Chloe was just like continuing to distance herself, and like she was more interested in like Rachel and like talking with other people and everything. And then he just did not handle that well. Like at least with Max and Chloe hanging out together, Warren's just like, oh cool, you know, if you want to like take her to the movies with us, you can. Like he's fine with it, whatever. Elliot's just bad vibes all around.
Yeah, I think the thing is, like, and it is true, they are very similar, aren't they? But, like, the one thing they are different on is like, and when I say similar, I mean, like, you know, they both like the main character, but the main character's preoccupied with, you know, bigger fish to fry and whatnot. But where they are different is that Warren takes a rejection or whatever on the chin and kind of goes, oh, yeah, that's fine, it's your choice. Well, I mean, we'll get into it more in, like, like, episode 3, but yeah, Elliot just, turn. So I do think it is quite cool how they almost repeated Warren, but then like blindside you. But we will get more into that afterwards. But yeah, I quite enjoyed Skip as well. And I know Anya, you were talking beforehand that we have to mention Skip, but you know we're introduced to this like kind of security guy, way better than David. I mean, probably worse at his job, well, arguably anyway. But I don't know, he was like a fun little character. So, yeah, Anya, what did you make of Skip?
Yeah, I think he's just like pretty chill. Definitely like a security guard you'd want to have around if you're like Chloe or Justin or something and you're smelling like weed all the time. Like he still tries, but you know, he's definitely more lax, not like David at all. And he has a banger demo that he shows to us, and I like that you can hear it like on the radio too, like throughout the series. And I like to think that he's just not in the first game because he ended up having a successful band and he's on the road touring.
Yeah, not that he got suspended for having like weed in his pocket or whatever. Jack, did you think he was a nice, like, fresh face to see?
I did, yeah. And like, it's probably a conscious effort that he's so different to David in terms of just like how he is. He's obviously far more laid back than David is, more relaxed about his job. And you know what? It's nice because obviously he's not a main character. It's good that they've given him that little bit of depth, you know, that he's part of a band, and even that little moment where you get to listen to his demo, which I'm pretty sure looking at my choices here, I did say that I like the demo. So yeah, like, again, he's not like a character that's gonna like stick out, but he's like one of those characters that sort of fills this world and makes it what it is.
No, very well. One thing I kind of want to segue into, and I just want to say, like, if I think Before the Storm, and I think of one scene that jumps to my mind, it is Chloe and Rachel on the train, and I just want to like give an honorable mention to the scene because I don't know what it is. Like, I think the song's Class Lanterns on the Lake Through the Cellar Door, like the way that Chloe and Rachel are finally like, because like the whole interactions, it's so like heavy and fast, and like, you know, they're at a concert saving each other from a fight, and then like, you know, Rachel grabs Chloe's hand and they're in front of all these people, and then they skip school, and it's like the first moment where they're sat down and it's just conversation. And Anya, I know your like Discord bio at one point was "nice Rachel we're having," which made me laugh, which is like one of my favorite quotes in the game as well.
It's so good.
Yeah, it's a good one. But I just really enjoyed, yeah, the whole just because like, you know how like in the first game you had Max and you could sit down and just think and listen to acoustic music, and I know like Jack, you probably weren't the biggest fan of it because you thought it was a lot of padding. But I don't know, I just weirdly liked this, like the way that you could just share your earbuds with like Rachel and just listen to music, and then afterwards you get to play that game of like, you know, two truths and a lie, which like Rachel will always win, and you can bend the rules and stuff, and then she makes a comment on it. But yeah, I just wanted to like ask both of you, did you like that scene, and do you share my sentiment? Is this the scene you think of, like if I mentioned Before the Storm?
Funny enough, it's not the scene. Probably like top 3. I think for me, the scene I think of, it's like when they're doing the Tempest in like episode 2. But I can see why, because I think like this is like an important scene for like the development of their relationship. Like they've clearly just met. after a couple of bumping into one another moments. They've run away together. They're now getting to know one another. So it's almost like the start of their relationship. And you are right. Like, I'm not someone that, whenever there's a moment to sit and ponder and, you're listening to music, I'm not one of those players that will just sort of sit there and listen for a bit. I might click onto it and then a few seconds later click off. But like, one thing I would say while we're talking about music, and especially when we're talking about like the outros, they do a really good job at like setting the tone. I'm talking about the scene at the end with like, the burning trees and stuff. Even the outros when like, it's this really cool shot of like Frank sitting outside his RV and the camera's over his shoulder, and you've got like the silhouette of the trees and like just like the fire. Like, it's really dramatic, and like the music like marries up to that so well. So that's something you've got to give Deck 9 props for, something that they've carried on like very well with, taking over from Don't Nod in season 1.
Yeah, and before we go to you, Anya, I just want to reinforce that point as well. I think the music is smashed out the park, and like, I know there are a few other like different bands like Speedy Autos that come in and stuff, but I honestly, and I'm not just saying this because I am a big fan of Daughter, but I honestly think they understood the assignment to a T. It's so cool that we got this really talented band in, and they just got the message. They really made this beautiful album and soundtrack just around Chloe's emotions. You have like sad songs in there, you've got like angry songs, which we'll cover later in an episode, where she just wrecks the bathroom and stuff. And yeah, I honestly just really have to praise it as well, and it works just as well with the outros, so I completely get that, Jack. So Anya, do you have any points on the music of the game or the train scene that I mentioned there?
Yeah, just a big heavy agree on the music. I'm also a big fan of Daughter, and I love that a lot of the songs that they made, like, they use like Youth and everything, which is like one of like their bigger songs, but they also do have songs specifically like for this game, which I think is super cool. And then just the other songs in general, like the one on the train sequence, like it was definitely a moment that I liked a lot. I don't know if I would be my first one that comes to mind. Maybe for this episode alone, yes. Either that one or the junkyard scene with Chloe later, where she's smashing everything. But yeah, I'm not like Jack. I would just sat and pondered with this one for a bit, just because it was a nice little breather to have. I do like when we have these moments, and you can stay in them as long as you want. And I don't usually stay that long, but this one I was just like, oh, this is so nice. Just sitting on a little train. I'm spending like this ponder, listen to music time with someone else, which doesn't usually happen, I don't think. Maybe that's why I liked it so much, because it's just like having a company there and someone who's just like swept in and is already like changing your life. And I'm like, man, this is some good shit.
Nah, for sure. No, I completely get that. And yeah, with the whole music thing as well, I spent countless hours on mixtape mode just chilling in Chloe's bedroom, just like listening to the soundtrack. So yeah, I do agree on that one. One thing that I kind of want to finalise on, and it's a massive can of worms, so I understand that we won't fully like cover the question, but like, obviously later on in the scenes, you go to the park, you look through the telescope, and a side note, I really enjoyed the bit of dialogue where they're just like people stalking, people watching, and then you have to comment on like sacrificing the firstborn in the barbecue. Really enjoyed that bit. But then like, obviously, you see that man kissed a woman, and then like Rachel flips, and then she really just turns on, and her attitude just changes out of nowhere before we get like the kind of like really angsty Rachel. Now, as I mentioned in my stream, a lot of the fans hated Rachel, and it was interesting to hear, because I get there's the whole cheating argument, but there's just her attitude, how she's fake popular, they don't buy it. I kind of just want to ask you guys, is Rachel a bad person?
I mean, I don't think that she is. I mean, like, the whole thing, like how they decided to do her story in particular for Before the Storm is kind of weird, just because, I don't know, her whole thing, like with these episodes, is that like her dad's cheating, and she is like very much upset about that, like upset enough to set like a whole forest on fire. And then like, I think they made a mistake doing that, and then also introducing like a romantic aspect with Chloe and Rachel. Like, I feel like that would have happened anyways, like just the way like Chloe talks about her in the first game. But then like they have the thing with Frank and Jefferson, but I'm not on the side that blames Rachel for that, because she's like not even 18, and these men in their 30s are like getting into a relationship with her or anything. So I think that's a whole like other discussion, like just like grooming and everything. Like there's no way that like she's as in control as she thinks she is, even if that's just like kind of her character. Like she thinks she, like, you know, is on top of the world and everything. Like everybody loves her, blah blah blah. I don't know. I don't think that she's a bad person. I think she's just got a lot going on. Like we see Chloe also has a lot going on. And then I think after that scene in particular, like I don't think she's that unreasonable either. Like she's still sticking around, but she just asks for some space. And then Chloe keeps trying to like, she's like, yeah, I understand. No, actually I don't. Like, what's going on? And Rachel's just like, Chloe, please. So I don't blame her too much for blowing up about it. I don't know. It's a weird situation.
No, I get you. And I think that's somewhat why they might be really good for each other, because like they're curious for one another. Because like Chloe probably sees Rachel as this popular girl, like, wow, she's giving me attention. But then like you've got Rachel, who's like, wow, this girl's not fake, she's real. She doesn't care what people think about her. She stands up to whoever. She's badass. And I think, you know, they go hand in hand pretty well in a weird, unique way. But Jack, with that whole thing, when you first played it, were you a bit like, well, what's Rachel doing? Like, what's she going through here? Why is she being salty randomly? Do you think she's a bad person?
I don't think so. I think that it was quite clear that she'd seen something that emotionally hit her, and I think it was just a matter of time before that really come out. So I think, honestly, I'm in agreement with Anya. Like, I can't really pin anything to say that she's necessarily a bad person, but you know what, while we are on that scene, I did just want to have a little point where I think just like sort of like the writing was really good here. Like I love it when you then have the bat with Chloe and you're like smashing things up. It's interesting like the things that she smashes up. So like she smashes up a camera at one point, and I think she actually even mentions it, obviously that's representing Max. And then she'll like smash the mannequin as well. And you like were saying just then, like how, you know, Rachel is sort of seen to be quite fake, and she like hits this mannequin, like knocks its head off. So like on a writing level, that was like really strong in my opinion. But no, I don't think Rachel's a bad person. Like she even says in the moment, doesn't she, that she's had a hunch that she's been lied to for some time now. So she's probably been carrying that, and then she's had this realization that not everything is as it seems. And, you know, it's just hit her quite hard emotionally.
No, very good. But guys, I fully understand that this is a mammoth episode. It's like, it took me 3.5 hours to complete. There are a lot of points that we've not gone into because we can't for the sake of time. So like, please let us know in the comments if there's anything you'd like to, you know, us our opinion on, because Jack and I will reach them. We answer every single one, so we will be sure to get to those. Let us know if there's anything we've missed. Let us know what you thought of our points. But until then, we hope you enjoyed this analysis episode. See you next week in episode 2. So thank you very much for listening, and we'll see you in the next one.
Later.
Bye.